Little Paulie tells me you didn't go to your aunt's funeral.
This isn't a tribute to Paulie. It's an autopsy. Ah yes, Paulie Gualtieri, soprano soldier, pathological liar, petty gossip, and perhaps the most gloriously insecure man-child to ever survive an HBO finale.
What do you hear? What do you see?
While some fans lionize him for his comedic timing and catchphrases, "What do you hear? What do you say?" the reality is far less flattering. Paulie was a loser in the truest, saddest, most unrelentingly pathetic sense of the word. Let's dispense with the romanticism. Paulie was childless, unmarried, and emotionally stunted.
Little Paulie tells me you didn't go to your aunt's funeral. I'm gonna tell you something else. I'm done with Nucci.
He was the kind of man who clung to his own mother figure like a scared toddler in a thunderstorm. And when that illusion fell apart, he cracked like cheap plaster. His interpersonal repertoire consisted of gossiping, backstabbing, and a compulsive need for validation from Tony, who, for the record, should have whacked him seasons ago. The idea that Paulie somehow emerged as a fan favorite says more about the charisma of Tony Sirico than the worth of the character he portrayed.
I'm always crying. $8 grand a month?
Who gives a fuck?
Paulie's financial life was just as embarrassing. For someone supposedly well off, he was constantly hustling to make ends meet. He had to beg Tony for a cut of Ralph's score just to afford Green Grove for Nucci, his not really mother.
Guess what, fucking mama's boy? You're kicking out $4 grand to me every month.
Later, he was reduced to shaking down Jason Barone for $4,000 a month just to keep her there. And let's be clear, Paulie didn't have a reliable racket. He scraped by on a feast or famine income, likely blown on coke, Gumar's overpriced dinners, and suits too garish even for 1970s Las Vegas. Retirement plan? Rainy day fund? Please.
My share of the Bohax Hall from the 70s.
Did you rap it right?
This is a man who couldn't scrape together $8,000 on short notice, yet strutted around in custom threads like he was John Gotti. And then there's the living situation. For all the murders, extortion, and general moral rot, what did Paulie have to show for it? A modest home straight out of a Queen's real estate brochure. No beachfront compound, no penthouse suite, just a middle-class house and some lawn ornaments. But perhaps that's the genius of The Sopranos. Stripping the myth off the mob. Paulie lived no better than the garbage man, and that's the point.
I'm gonna bunk down here. All right, you go take care of your wife that flew.
These weren't titans of underworld industry. They were emotionally crippled men clinging to power with sweaty palms. Junior lived modestly, too, though he wasn't exactly destitute. Even after Tony slashed his income, he still afforded high-end psychiatric care and expensive legal counsel. But he didn't show off, because in the old-school mentality, real men didn't need McMansions to prove they were somebody. The trappings of wealth were reserved for the women, mob wives to decorate and justify the square footage. As for Tony, the so-called kingpin of New Jersey organized crime, his big dream was a beach house and not losing his health insurance. He lived next door to a doctor, worried about college tuition, and depended on crooked politicians just to stay afloat. This wasn't the fantasy world of Goodfellas or Scarface. This was a man in a bathrobe, shuffling between pork stores and panic attacks. Which brings us back to Paulie.
Deal with that dust here.
Yeah, I know.
For all his tough guy posturing, he spent his 50s and 60s robbing drug dealers and old ladies just to make tribute. Incompetent? Absolutely. Dangerous? Occasionally. Entertaining? Without a doubt. And yet, it's almost poetic that the one man left standing at the end is the one most undeserving of any happy ending. That's The Soprano, ultimate punchline. There is no cosmic justice. The worst men often last the longest. Yes, Paulie was awful, but that's what made him great. He was one of the show's most honest mirrors.
These are snakes with fur. All Italians will tell you, you can't even put them around the baby.
Behind the bravado, behind the violence, behind the faux respect, he was just a scared, petty, aging crook trying to stay useful. A man whose most touching act was keeping up a charade for the only woman who ever really loved him. There's a reason why, even after all the lies, betrayals, and psychotic rants, fans can't imagine The Sopranos without Paulie Walnuts. He was a loser. But he was our loser, and in a world where everyone's faking it, sometimes the most pathetic character ends up being the most real. If you think Paulie Walnuts was a legend, or a legend in his own mind, hit that like button. I'm Matthew, and this is Sopranos Breakdown, where we don't just quote the show, we autopsy it.